Okay, first thing, I will not stand still. If you have met me before today, this is the way I talk all the time. This is not adrenaline, this is just the way it is. All right? Before we begin, I want you to know a couple things about me. Is this too high? First, I put the thing too high. We're going to lower it, put it right here where it's going to look even more in your face. Better? All right. All right. So we're going to start with, hit it again there, kid. The power of one. Everybody here has the power of one. You don't know it, do you? Some of you do. But some of you have been told you have no power. Some of you have been told that what you have isn't good enough, like Krista was talking about. And you know what that tells you? It gives you fear. Fear prevents us from doing what we should or could be doing. I'm going to tell you what scared me, what kept me from doing what I should have been doing. This is my mom and dad. I was raised in a very traditional American home. Dad did a lot of different things. He was a mechanic, he was a truck driver, hunting, all that kind of stuff. My mom was a student aide, a parapro for the school district for a lot of years. She worked for Joe Johns, whose daughter is here, so I have to see Kathy, for a lot of years as a secretary. And these, the next slide, are my brothers and me. Aren't we cute? My older brother is this tall now. My little brother is this tall. My younger brother is this tall. I'm about 6 years old there, about the time I started to stutter. And when I tell you I stuttered, not like I stuttered occasionally. No. I stuttered a lot. They weren't sure at that time what caused it. I had a significant hearing loss, and they thought maybe that was part of it. So they sent me, this is like 1970, they sent me to speech therapy at school. Speech therapy at the time for stutterers was I had to go to I'm in second grade, had to go to the kindergarten room and cut out these farm animal things and put the rules of stuttering on them. Mom, you remember this? It hung from a clothes hanger. The thing I remember the most is the chicken was bigger than the cow and the horse, which I thought, come on. Even I know, the stutterer knows the chicken's this big, the horse, 12 hands, right? All right, the chicken had rule number 1 because it was a very long rule. It's the only rule I remember, the only one I think I actually internalized because it was so incredibly wrong. Rule number 1 for stuttering is, when you stutter, stop and start over again. Let me tell you, darling, if I couldn't say it the first time, I surely can't say it the second time. In those days, they really thought that stuttering was 90% mechanical and 10% emotional. In my head, I knew that was wrong. But the experts, who didn't stutter, who didn't know, told me that's what it was. And I would say, they had me read books. I read the same book over and over until I was fluent. It doesn't help with stuttering. Now, my dad, don't get me wrong, wonderful, incredible man. His philosophy on speech therapy was very different than the school's. He would make me so mad that I would go, ah, and I was fluent when I was mad. As an adult, I get his purpose. As a kid, I was like, what is wrong with you? Dad died, it'll be 12 years ago, my parents' 46th wedding anniversary. He died. Mom and Dad were married 46 years and 3 hours. Mom said, yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. The day he died, Mom said, he didn't say anything. Mom said he would do anything not to take me out to dinner. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, so here's the truth about stuttering, all right? About 10 years ago, they decided that the 90-10 was absolutely upside down. that it was 10% mechanical and 90% under the water emotional. Now they know it's 50% genetic. It's like having blue eyes. But let me tell you, if I rolled up here in a wheelchair, someone would help me up the stairs because it's a real disability, right? Stuttering isn't treated as a disability. It's treated as you're not smart. I'm already 7 sentences ahead in my speech, and I don't have anything written down. Okay? We are that smart because we have to be, because there are words I'm not going to be able to say that I'm going to make you say for me. Happens all the time to stutterers. We are bright. All right, so when you know better, you do better, right? So, in 1979, my dad got a job. Oh, I grew up in Mount Clemens, Michigan. Actually, now it's called Macomb Township, right? In 1979, Dad got a job up here in Port Huron. And this is in between my freshman and sophomore year of high school. So we are going to move to Port Huron. Now, let me give you what it is. When I was 12 years old, Lakeside broke ground. I lived 4 miles from Lakeside Mall, okay? We watched Mount Clemens, or Mount Macomb and Utica explode in my childhood. And now we're going to move to Port Huron. I had only ever been here because my older brother played hockey. So I only ever saw McMorrin. That's all I knew about Port Huron. My parents moved us to Fort Gratiot because in 1979 you didn't commute 35 miles. Who commutes more than 40 miles now? I do it all the time, okay? So I get to school the first day. We moved up here on July 27th was our first day in Fort Gratiot, July 27th. And as a stutterer, you are inherently an introvert. Do I look like an introvert? But I am, okay? Because the hardest thing for a stutterer to say, what do you think it is? Hello? Their name. Because Kathy doesn't know I stutter. She's about to find out, and I'm terrified how she's going to react. Stutterers have changed their name thinking it's going to help, only to stutter on the new name. Weird, huh? So here's my first day at school. In 10th grade at Port Huron Northern High School, your first day, you have speech class. Not speech therapy, speech class. I'm in a classroom with not one face I recognize. First hour of the day. You might want to know that by the time I got to Port Huron, I was almost this tall already, and I already looked like the staff. So I walk into homeroom, Mr. Reese is sitting there. He said, "Can I help you?" I said, "I'm here for school." He said, "What are you teaching?" I said, "Well, you can show me where my desk is." So he finally figures out I'm a student. Now, my maiden name is very unique. It's Mulso. It's spelled Moulleseaux. My mom's name is Nedra, Nedra. When people see Nedra Mulso, they assume she doesn't speak English. Right? It's true. So I get there, I get my schedule, speech class. Okay. My maiden name is, my married name is an M. Teacher says, we're going to go alphabetically, and we're going to do a 1-minute speech on yourself. Oh, 90% emotional, remember. A, B, C. They finally get to L's. Okay, I'm next, and now I am a wreck. Where's Lisa? Lisa, where are you? There's Lisa. And where's Kathy Sandoval? Okay. When I was a kid, did I talk like this? No. How did I talk, Lisa? You stuttered a lot. A lot. Okay? Now remember, I know no one in this classroom because I just moved here. All right? So I get up there, and this is how it sounded. Hi, my name is Moso. Everything had an M. I come from Clemson, Michigan. We moved here. Oh, good God. It was a minute of torture. Slide, please. Where are we at? Then magic happened. Magic. I can't describe it as any other way as magic. Anybody know Fran Renner from Port Huron Northern? The teacher. Amazing lady. A magician. Her classroom was like a band room where it had the 3 levels, and her desk set up in the upper left-hand corner. I remember it like yesterday. Now, mind you, by this time, I'd had speech therapy for 10 years. I'd been through many more speech therapists than the average person. I knew more about stuttering than anybody I knew. Than they knew, because they didn't stutter. They didn't know, right? I get through my 1 minute of sheer torture. Fran Renner stands up in the back of the classroom, and she says 10 words. It was a statement, not a question. Or it was a question, not a statement. She says, Sandy, do you know that it's okay that you stutter? It was like someone took a brick and hit me in the head. Because my whole life, people had tried to fix it. And it wasn't about fixing it. It was about embracing it and making it okay. I was standing out there with Kelly. And I was in my head going, okay, what happens if the wheels fall off, Sandy? What happens? Fran whispers, Sandy, do you know that it's okay that you stutter? These women aren't going to boo you off the stage. They paid a lot of money to be here, and they're not going to make you leave. Go ahead. I call that day 1. My life changed that day. Yeah. That was the day I started to stop stuttering. Now, it took a long time, all right? Fran changed my life. Go ahead. So life happens, a couple of jobs, I get married, I have 2 kids. I'll be married 35 years in May. Let me tell you why that's fascinating. Because of a day 1, not mine. Go ahead. So, we move out to the country, we build a house, we have a farm. We have no animals yet. We're going to raise alpacas. Everybody know what alpacas are? All right, we had an alpaca farm out there. When it got time to market our alpacas, I couldn't afford mainstream marketing. So I started learning it, do it myself. I went to college, met Kelly. He was my political science teacher. See, did you hear me stutter? That's how it sounds like. And I took a marketing class, I took a graphic design class. And I start sending out ads. Pretty soon, people are calling me in the alpaca world, because I built a database. They said, hey, Sandy, this is so-and-so from Utah. Who built your ad? I'm thinking, oh, am I in trouble? Am I not supposed to be doing that? I don't care, whatever. So I said, well, I did. She said, could you build an ad for me? I'm like, yeah. She said, what are you going to charge me? I said, charge you? She said, Sandy, you got to charge me. I'm like, oh, okay. That was the beginning of my marketing company, right? And then it turned into doing seminars. The Michigan Alpaca Breeders Association calls me and says, hey, Sandy, we see you're doing all this marketing. Can you come to a seminar? Never done a seminar before in my life. I said, sure. They said, can you speak for 2.5 hours? I said, 2.5 hours? I can speak all bloody day. Okay, 2.5 hours. I do the marketing thing. It turned into a bunch more things, Southern Gospel groups. I did a lot of work for a lot of different things. My township, I worked for them, did all the graphic design for them. And I was really good at it. And then 2008 hit. The market went down. People can't afford alpacas. Marketing is the first thing to go, right? Marketing is the first thing they cut in any business. So there wasn't much for me to do. So, but now my kids are grown. They're both married. John and Kate, my younger daughter and son-in-law, they're in full-time gospel music ministry. And they are on a cruise ship. I need someone to come watch their 2 little girls. So I go on the cruise with them. While they sing, I watch the babies. I'm coming home in Fort Lauderdale, and I get on a plane. And I was looking for a job, and the flight crew says, you should be a flight attendant. Now, by now, I'm 51 years old. And I said, oh, I'm too old to be a flight attendant. They said, no, you're really not. I'm like, really? It was one of those wild rides home where the flight attendants never got out of their jump seats. One of those flights. We landed in Detroit and slid off the runway. So I drive home. It took me 2.5 hours because it was such nasty weather like this. And my husband wasn't there when I got there. And I thought, you know what? If I could handle a flight and I could handle falling off the runway, I could probably handle being a flight attendant. So I apply. I send it in, personality test, brain test, send it back. They send me back an email. Can you come next Thursday for an interview in Fort Lauderdale? Well, absolutely, I can, sure. So I book my hotel, I book my flight, I'm going to Fort Lauderdale, right? My husband walks in the door. Now he's met me, okay? Haven't seen him in 10 days. Hi, honey, hugs, kisses, whatever. Oh, by the way, next Thursday, I'm heading to Fort Lauderdale for an interview to be a flight attendant. He says, since when do you want to be a flight attendant? I said, since 9:30 this morning. True story. It's true. Good on. So there I am at training. That's my class. See the tall guy in the middle? That's Adam, my best friend. Right to his left is me. Okay. That was airport night where you stay up all night and pretend to be a flight attendant. Toughest 4 weeks of my life was training. I was old. I was 51 years old going to train with these kids. It was so much fun. Go ahead. It was a blast. So I come back to Detroit. I'm flying out of Detroit, flying everywhere. And I'm here about 1.5 years. And then I am voted by my peers Flight Attendant of the Year. I am still humbled and honored by it. But let me tell you why it's even more important. When you become Flight Attendant of the Year, you fly to Fort Lauderdale to attend the Black and Yellow Ball. Now, the Black and Yellow Ball is this fancy, Ed had to wear a tux, and I had to have a fancy black dress, and, this is about as dressy as I get in my uniform, and, but it's a big deal. So I bought the Spanx, the whole 9 yards. Mama's working it. Truth is, I never got to go, because let me tell you why. We get to Fort Lauderdale. This is my husband. His name is Ed. That's him on the plane getting ready to go to Fort Lauderdale. We get there, we land. He's kind of dragging his feet through the airport. Now, as up as I am, Ed is like down here, right? We kind of balance each other out. The thing is, if it wasn't for him, I'd float away. If it wasn't for me, he'd never get off the ground. Okay? True story. And you look at that, but he's dragging his feet through the airport. I'm saying, honey, can't you be a little bit excited about this? I feel kind of bad because when we got to the hotel, he proceeds to have a massive heart attack. Widowmaker. Widowmaker. He didn't recognize it as a heart attack. My husband, the EMT firefighter. He wanted to take an Uber to the hospital. As I'm talking to 911 on the phone, now we haven't checked into the hotel yet. We have our bags, okay? I'm standing there talking to 911, and I turned to the girl. I said, can you give me some aspirin? She kind of moseys back. I said, honey, it's a heart attack, not a hangnail. So she kind of hurries a little faster. And she brings me back some coated aspirin. Just so you know, coated aspirin isn't going to help in a heart attack. You know those big, huge vases they have at hotels? I put the aspirin down, hang on the phone, Ed's walking outside, I don't know if he's alive or dead yet. I pick up the big vase and go boom, and I put it back, and I got, Ed, come here, honey, and I sprinkled it in his mouth, and 911's finally showing up. 8 hours later, there he is. He'd had a widowmaker. Doc comes in, he said, Mr. Morden, you had 5 minutes left to live. Your wife saved your life. That was his day one. The aspirin saved his life. They took him right to the cardiac cath lab. They put in thingy, 2 stents. He was 100% blocked. This is the kind of heart attack to where they just fall over and die. There's no warning signs. There's none of that stuff. Okay? He was a very lucky man. When I think about it, go ahead. What's next? My dad grew up with rheumatic fever. He had it when he was 5 years old. And he was always told that he wouldn't survive to see 30, probably, if nothing happened, if nothing didn't advance. My grandparents weren't happy he got married and had kids because they were really sure he would be leaving orphans behind with my mom. My mom is very capable. My dad married my mom because she's very, very capable and knew if the worst happened, she could have raised us by herself. He actually survived to watch my daughter graduate from college. But he taught us two very, 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 very good lessons. The first lesson was, if you're born to be hung, you'll never be shot. In the ambulance, so I'm in flight attendant mode, right? I'm in the ambulance, and in Fort Lauderdale, the fire department and the EMS guys are the same people. Here we have them different, right? And I'm watching the screen. I'm in the front of the ambulance, fire truck. I'm watching the screen, closed circuit, watching Ed, and they're working on Ed. And the kid looks at me, and I'm very, very, very focused. As flaky as I am, when it hits the fan, I am very serious, all right? And I get very quiet. I get very, very low-toned. And I look like I'm a cold, heartless you-know-what to this guy. He looks at me and says, "Ma'am, are you okay?" I said, "Yes, sir." He's thinking, this woman doesn't love her husband. He said, no, ma'am, are you really okay? I said, "Hon, here's the thing." He's like, what, 12? I don't know. I thought all kids were taught this, okay? If you're born to be hung, you'll never be shot. And he's like, okay, as he's driving the big truck thinking, wow, this is something else. Later on, I figure he'll figure it out. But I didn't realize until that day what that meant. I knew that, but it applied to my life for the first time, right? He also taught us everything happens for all things that happened to me put me exactly where I was supposed to be. Let's think about this. Had my parents not moved to Port Huron, I wouldn't have met Fran Renner. I wouldn't have had day one to stop stuttering. I wouldn't have become a public speaker. I wouldn't have had the confidence to get married and raise kids, homeschool my children. My kids, one went to U of M, met her husband, who was also homeschooled. They start a ministry. They go to Fort Lauderdale on a cruise ship. They need me to come and watch the kids. So I'm on a plane coming back where I meet a flight crew that says, "You should be a flight attendant." I go be a flight attendant. I win flight attendant of the year. You fire the ball, husband has a heart attack and survives. That's where you are exactly where you are supposed to be. You get it? You today are exactly where you are supposed to be. If you didn't get here because of the snow, you weren't supposed to be here. You got here through the snow, you are exactly where you are supposed to be. And it's important. Day ones aren't always good things. Day ones can be awful things. Ed's day one was an awful, awful thing. Turned out okay, but didn't have to be. Go ahead. All right, I want you guys all to close your eyes. I'm not going to embarrass anybody, call anybody out, but I want you all to close your eyes. If you can remember a day where someone gave you a day one, please raise your hand. Yep, I see those hands. I see them. All right, put your hands down. That day one changed your life, right? Close your eyes. If you have given a day one, please raise your hand. It may not be as dramatic as mine, because mine's pretty dramatic. Thank you. All right, open your eyes. Here's the challenge for 2020. My daughter, Katie, who's in the ministry, she was in a very serious car accident at 16. And her back is not great. She called me, she was in Arizona singing, and she was having a very bad day with her back. But she had to go to the grocery store. She has 3 little girls, a husband. She goes to the grocery store. And she calls and tells me that, Mom, someone put the groceries in the back of the car. She called me crying over something so small because it would have hurt so bad for her to do it. I want to challenge each of you. Every month, find someone and give them a day one. I'm not talking CPR unless you have to. Something so simple as paying for someone's gas. You ever walk up to someone and say, hey, man, I got you. Ever do that? You know what's the best about giving someone a day one? It's your gift. You receive the gift when you give a day one. That is the gift. You think you're giving it away, but you're actually receiving. Take the challenge. Give a day one. Know you are exactly where you are supposed to be when you're there and make the most of it. Thank you.